surprise, motherfucker! The king is back!
Back again. Back in the lab, back in the office, whatever you want to call it. Jude and I are back. I'm the host of this thing, and welcome back to the Outside the Octagon podcast. I'm Charleston, Payne. Directly to my left, the one, the only, Jude Starns. I don't really have a good adjective today. We'll throw that in later.
Yeah. I'm disappointed.
I got you.
You disappointed me.
Actually, hold up. Give me a second. Let me think. Just keep ripping on me for a minute or do what you want to do. Also, by the way, I'm definitely going to clip that part where I just chinned myself with my water bottle.
Nah, that was good.
And I'm going to put that in there. Probably right about now. So you guys can see that.
Put a little, it's all over.
To my left, the incredible, instigating, word-finding, mind-boggling, grave-digging co-host.
Yeah, man,
I don't know what that last part means. I was just saying stuff, bro.
You had me thinking WWE when you... Well, no, that's a monster truck, huh?
Yeah, monster truck. Dude, speaking of, kind of off topic, man. I know we're an MMA podcast, but I've never been to Monster Jam.
I don't really plan on going, honestly. Not really into it, the person.
Nah,
I'm not ripping on
Me neither, bro. But I don't know. I got to do some type of vehicle event at some point, whether it be a Monster Jam or a NASCAR race. We got to attend.
I mean, whatever you like to do. Look, I'm cool with it, man. You wanna dress up in a furry costume? I'm fine with that, man. It doesn't affect me. So, I mean, not saying I would do it, but if that's what you're into. Not comparing those two, but whatever you like to do it.
Word up. But nah, man. I mean, what a weekend, man. It's been action-packed for the Outside the Octagon guys. We're recording now on a Sunday afternoon. Friday evening was a blast. Jude got out here Friday, around 2 o'clock.
Yeah,
went,
about to.
Picked up my car from the shop. Picked up my car. Then we headed straight down to New Orleans, man. Straight to Kenner. Yeah. And what an incredible time it was down there. I don't know if you can really see the card from here. I'll try to zoom it in a little bit. But we went to BFC 68 down there at the Pontchartrain Center. We also got the poster there. We'll get a frame for that soon and have that up on the wall since it was our first MMA event we got to attend. Great fighters, great people, great ran organization. And it's great to have something like that going on in Louisiana. I can't wait to make it to the next one. I don't think we'll be missing one from here on out.
Yeah, it was maybe even better than I expected. It was definitely better than I expected. It was definitely more fun to watch MMA in person than on TV. Not that it's not fun to watch on TV. It's just so action-packed. I mean, everybody's there to see some blood, see some good fights. And really, there wasn't many bad fights. I honestly think that it may have been better than some UFC events, to be quite honest.
I mean, I got to say I agree, man. I mean, there was no fights where I was there and I was like, wow, this is like a snooze fest, I had some form of enjoyment out of every single fight. Quite a few finishes, a true mixed martial arts event. It doesn't just happen to be MMA. It's got kickboxing involved in BFC, Muay Thai.
Yeah.
A lot of cool things are going on over there. So if you got the time, go check out their next event. As soon as we have details on that, we'll let you know when it is, how to get tickets, and be able to hook you guys up.
Yeah, but it's an amazing organization for sure.
Incredibly well ran. Everything was just smooth sailing, the whole time we were at the event. Seats were set up well. Quite packed.
Yeah, it was definitely packed.
There was a lot of people there. A few celebrities in the building, ourselves included, maybe, if you consider us that.
Maybe.
Nah, not quite, man. Not quite. We'll get there one day. But incredible time, man. And I mean, obviously, I had a good time. I had to cop the hat, got the shirt, had to rep that on a little podcast. Just show my love to the brand and everything, because they do some great stuff down there, man. And they're moving it all over South Louisiana, and that's good for MMA.
No, it was awesome. And the Kenner Center, never had been there, or Pontchartrain Center. And it was a really nice place, So I liked it. I plan on going back for sure. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the venue by far exceeded expectations for me. Not necessarily talking about the Octagon or the way they had it set up. I just didn't expect a building right there next to the lake to be in that great a shape and just that nice of a venue. Very professional.
No, it was awesome. I have nothing but good things to say about it. There's very few fights that weren't interesting. Pretty much every fight from start to finish. And we watched 13 fights, and every one of them was action-packed and really fun to watch, you know?
Yeah, we spent, 5 or 6 hours in the building?
Yeah, a lot of time.
I mean great time, awesome. Though. I mean, from start to finish, they kept us entertained. I mean, over time, I mean, the more we get to go and travel to these events and stuff, the more you'll be able to hear from those fighters from the local regional scene and stuff. I mean, we got quite a few guys that are kind of scheduled, lined up to come on over the next few weeks or so, you know?
Yeah, a lot of cool people to talk about and a lot of cool things to bring up and stuff to hear for sure. So, I mean, make sure you're tuning in every week for recaps, guest episodes, previews, or whatever it is. I mean, this is the best podcast in the MMA world, so you might as well tune in. Don't miss it.
Fully agree. Don't miss any episodes. And the best way to not miss any episodes is to subscribe and also follow our Instagram at Outside the Octagon Pod _. It'll be right there across Max Holloway. The next best thing you could do aside from subscribing and liking our videos is going over to prowlerpickles.com. And when you go over there, I'll let you get a good little look. Admire it while you can before you get it in your hand, baby. Because these are some of the best pickles that money could buy. Jude, you want to show it off and give a little rundown about our product here?
Yeah, Prowler Pickles, best pickles on the market. This spicy dill, and I'm a little hungry myself, so I'm going to whip one out and try it, man, if I can get my hands on it. Hands a little big. Let's see what we got here.
How are we feeling about that?
It's got a lot of kick, man. I mean, but we knew that coming in.
Hey,
speaking of MMA,
spicy deal.
Speaking of MMA, those things, they pack some punch, man. So
some punch. They got the kick. Let me tell you,
for sure.
And just like the person that sells them, Miranda Maverick. I mean, incredible fighter herself. And also another thing that just released over there, some of her honey. I mean, I haven't got it in yet. I'm about to order, but I've got no other choice but to just assume that it has to be incredible. It could be ordered through the same website, www.prowlerpickles.com. You can find it. It's called High Stakes Honey. Very incredible honey, I'm sure. Can't wait to get some of it in, give it a try. But that website's going to pop up right there. Code OTO10, all caps, at checkout. You'll get your 10% off on that order. And I'm sure what you're here to listen to today is going to be what happened on Saturday night with some very incredible fights, some very ever-changing storylines throughout the entirety leading up to 303. You know, I mean, we'll kind of recap what was supposed to happen, what did happen, what didn't happen, and then talk about, you know, some of the results from what we had, which, unfortunately, the clown mask will be getting ordered soon. Had it been in this week, I would be wearing it. Jude waxed me with those predictions, man. I mean, it wasn't even close. Going into the main event, I had the chance to come back. I needed Michael Venom Page to beat in Gary. Very good fight. We'll talk about it later. But
hey, what can I say, man? I'm the best there ever was. I'm the best there ever will be. Everybody else just sucks, man. I'm just that guy, man.
3-1 series lead.
Hey, we can take it outside, man. That's all I got to say. Hey, call me Diego. Call me Diego.
Dude, absolutely crazy. I think even though it's a co-main event, I think that's where we should start. I think that's a good fight to start with because so much stuff changed with that co-main spot, you know?
Yeah, I'm
the co-main originally originally was going to be Jamal Hill fighting what? Was it Oldberg at first? No. Jamal Hill versus Yoa. No. Shit.
It was Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree. And then that one got canceled. Then Jamal Hill, Oldberg. That one gets canceled. Then Oldberg Smith, right? Yeah.
That one gets canceled. Dolidze steps in, fights Anthony Smith.
What?
Then that gets moved back. The co-main event becomes Ortega versus Lopez. Then, what was it? 4 hours before the fight, Ortega steps out because he was extremely sick, which is very true. I mean, if you watch the weigh-ins or anything like that, you could tell. I mean, even whenever he stepped on the scale, he was You know, like you could tell like, he was just like nod, like very bad fever. Something was off, and you don't want to see a guy fight like that regardless, you know. I understand you might disrespect the whole pull it out of a fight right before it, but at the same time, you know, he was actually sick, and you don't want to see that affect a guy's legacy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy. Like, we went all the way from McGregor Chandler, which is back on in the Spirit 306, all the way to Dan Ige, Diego Lopez, and Pereira Jury. I mean, that's insane. Like, it just changed so much.
Yeah, and first of all, crazy that Dan Ige took this fight. I mean, 4 hours out. Dan Ige is a kind of a guy that you expect that from. Great fighter, you know, he steps in. Diego Lopez, same way, you know, stepped in on short notice regardless. Then 4 hours before his fight, after he's been preparing over the last few weeks for Brian Ortega, that fight gets called off. He gets offered to take home his paycheck for the fight and for the win. Dana was going to pay him for fighting and winning. Get the bonus pretty much. He's like, no, you know what? I'll fight anyway. And still chooses to fight Dan Ige, which is the heart that guy's got. Diego Lopez is insane. Same with Dan Ige. No disrespect to either of those guys. Diego Lopez ends up winning the fight by decision. But I can't say anything bad about either fighter.
No, it was a great fight, in my opinion. And both guys coming on short notice to fight somebody, which obviously Diego Lopez had the full training camp, but he prepared for a completely different guy, being Brian Ortega. And then he has to come face Dan Ige. So, and you saw he went to the ground a lot in that fight. They must have spent a lot of time working his ground game in that camp. And if Diego can evolve that, you know, he could really be dangerous. I think if he would just be a little more measured with his attacks, like Justin Gaethje early in his career, he was not very measured. He could fight and beat anybody any night, but he could also fight and lose to anybody any night. He just came out really explosive but wild, and you see that same thing from Diego Lopez. If he can just kind of get some control and kind of evolve his game a little bit, he could be really dangerous. Still really young, and he's got a lot of work to do, and I look forward to watching him fight. Right.
Now, one fight that I didn't expect, I mean, I'm not even going to lie when I say this, I didn't expect much out of, but ended up having a pretty cool result, was Macy Chiasson versus Myra Brandon Silva. And Chiasson just hit her with those ground elbows, man, and that first one was like a razor blade, it seemed like, huh? That cut her up. If you didn't see that, look it up or whatever, go watch the fight. Ended up being kind of a throwdown, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, some of those women, you know, as long as it's not a championship fight, there is a possibility they will throw them. I mean, some of them's dangerous.
Bueno Silva's last appearance previous to this was 298, whenever Strickland fought for the belt against Dricus. She fought right before against Raquel Pennington. And quite frankly, that was probably the most boring championship fight I've ever watched in my life. Raquel Pennington fought very well throughout the entirety of the fight. She was pretty fun to watch, pretty electric, that fight. Problem was Myra Brandon Silva literally for the last 3 rounds of the fight just laid on her back and just wanted Raquel Pennington to just grapple.
And you saw that some in this fight even. So
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Myra Brandon Silva is just, I mean, if she doesn't really need to be on a pay-per-view for the coming future, you know. Not a very fun fighter to watch, and it takes away from people wanting to buy the pay-per-view when they see her on it, quite frankly.
Yeah, man, it sucks, but that is the harsh reality of it. So.
Harsh reality. Now, to open the pay-per-view, they had a pretty good one, and this is one that we said we were going to talk about a little later, but I figure we might as well go ahead and dig deep into it now. Ian Gary versus MVP. Obviously, you know, I had MVP. Jude had Ian Gary. I mean, very good fight. You know, the clinch game of Ian Gary is undeniable. Almost thought he got MVP out of there with the submission in the first round, but wasn't able to quite get it locked in. MVP somehow had pretty good submission defense in that situation and stayed calm. As a kickboxer, I was really impressed by that. But, you know, I mean, I think the future's bright for both of these guys. But MVP's quite frankly close to the end of his road at his age, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still got some time left on him, but he's got to go string together a nice little win streak if he's going to get that title. But once again, like I said, Ian Gary, To me, he doesn't have many holes in his game. He's got some areas that he can improve, but he doesn't have many holes. Submission offense could definitely improve, but as far as submission defense, he's good. Takedown defense, he's good. Nobody standed and just or stood and struck with MVP to the level that Ian Gary did. Not saying that he couldn't have done better on the feet, but nobody's been able to strike with MVP to that extent yet. So he's a very well-rounded fighter, and I think he'll continue to evolve, and he's definitely going to be holding the belt. He's 15-0 for a reason. Clinch game, very boring to watch, but, I mean, it's effective, and he knows how to work in it, and a lot of people don't. So,
I mean, I think he's got to fight Colby Covington next. Otherwise, the next best opponent for him, Shavkat, and one of those guys have to have a blemish on their record.
Yeah, and I don't know. The Shavkat Gary fight would be very interesting. So would Colby Covington, because Colby Covington does a good job in the clinch as well. But I think Gary is a little more offensive in his clinch, where Covington just wants to get you to the clinch and get to the takedown, kind of just ride on your back and wear you down, throw a couple punches and elbows here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it was a good fight through and through. A lot of people said MVP got robbed. I strongly disagree. I think it might could have went either way, but I don't think it was a robbery. I think Ian Gary got it.
I don't think it could go other way. Like, either way, I completely disagree. I mean, in terms of significant strikes, MVP beat him by 2. Other than that, Gary put up identical numbers to him on the feet with more total strikes landed, more ground control time, and more takedowns. So, to me, there's no world where you can give that to MVP. Not saying that it wasn't a close fight. I think every round was close, but I think Ian Gary won every round. I think that there's a reason it was a unanimous decision. I think it was a good job by the judges. So I definitely think Gary won the fight. I think that it should have been a 5-round fight. That's what I think. We didn't have enough.
I think the next Ian Gary fight has to go 5 rounds, no matter who he fights.
Yeah, I wouldn't even mind seeing MVP versus Gary again with 5 rounds, because I really wanted to see 5 rounds between the two. Like, they're a really good matchup for each other. They're very similar, and in terms like matchup wise, they just match up well. So I would like to see that with a 5-round fight.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would be incredible. Had it went 5 rounds, I think that the outcome could have possibly gone different.
Oh, I could see that. Like, if you want to say that, I agree. Like, it could have gone different. I'm not saying for certain it would have, but I definitely could see the argument there.
Regardless of the way you look at that fight, it was a beatdown for neither guy. Like, neither guy was a clear winner on the feet, at least. I think the main reason Ian Gary got the win is because he spent the last 2 minutes of the fight on MVP's back. I think if MVP would have been able to stay up and maybe land some more strikes in that 3rd round in the final 2 minutes, I think we might be having a different outcome here. But at the same time, though, you can't disrespect that, because that's a very smart move by Ian Gary. He knows that there's not very much. Michael Venom Page knows how to deal with that situation.
No, I don't completely disagree. But like I said, I think that Gary definitely won the first and the third, and it's not close, and there's no doubt about it. So.
Right. I'm just stating the reason I think
Gary won. I know what you're saying, but like, yeah.
Right. And there's 2 more fights on this card that I want to talk about. One of them we'll be pretty quick with. I don't know if Jude's got one that he wants to talk about, but obviously the second one, you know what it is. We got to save that for last, though, the championship fight of the night, for obvious reasons. But the one I wanted to talk about was the bantamweight bout in the prelims. Payton Talbot, that guy right there is a force to be reckoned with. 19 seconds gets the finish, second fastest finish in bantamweight history. Absolutely electric on the feet. I mean, quick to the KO. That kid's a beast. I could see him rising fast and getting towards the belt. I mean, there's a lot of guys up there at the top of that bantamweight division, but I could see him running through probably 3 out of the top 5 guys easily.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. He's been insanely good, and I'm looking forward to seeing him climb the ranks, and he's in a position like Bo Nickel, in my opinion. Like, you got to start feeding him actual contenders. You got to start feeding him guys that actually compete for the title, and or actual UFC fighters that's been in the game for a while and has competed for titles and competed against top guys in the divisions, in my opinion. But while we're on that topic, I did want to talk about and I don't even know how to say his name. I can't pronounce his name. But another guy that really interests me that was on the early prelims, he's really young, and you might can say it. It's the Japanese guy that Carlos
Saruria or something.
Yes, bro. He's got such a unique ground game. Like he gets in some weird positions, man, and he likes that twister, and it's so weird. It's so unique. You don't see it very often. I really like what I see out of him. It's a really crazy way to fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's on a quick rise through the flyweight division, personally. I think that's two guys that are young that are quite frankly going to be forces to be reckoned with. Yeah,
and obviously, I mean, he's 10-0. He competed and rode to UFC. He's only 22, so I mean, he's got a lot of time. He could definitely be a force to be reckoned with in crum weight or flyweight, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So,
I mean, is there any other fights that you had on your list that you wanted to talk about tonight? Or do you want to just go ahead and talk about the one that everybody's probably itching to hear about?
Well, I was going to say I was very impressed with Joe Pyfer.
Very much so.
A nice bounce back win, because from what I was hearing and what I've read on him, I mean, he was coming off a big injury. Before that, he was really good, and he was coming off a big injury, and I watched the Jack Hermanson fight, and he just didn't have the gas tank, and he talked about that. He said he improved that in his training camp, and he really looked very improved, even though he did get the knockout pretty early. So
he didn't need a gas tank at all for that one, man. I mean, he threw 10 strikes, didn't get hit once by Marc-Andre Barriault. I mean, and I like Marc-Andre Barriault, but he's kind of on a decline from the last few fights that I've been seeing. I don't think we're going to be able to get very much more good action out of him in the future. But Joe Pyfer very much impressed me. I can't deny that. I was very impressed. Quick finish, 1 minute and 25 seconds into the fight, just gets him right on out of there. Flat lines the guy. So,
just he's very explosive. I mean, that's all you can say. Oh yeah, I didn't when we was talking about the chase line fight. It didn't cross through my mind, but that was absolutely crazy doctor stoppage. Insane. Like, I agree with the doctor stoppage.
Yeah, it needed to be stopped. I mean, Mayra Bueno Silva was very upset, but I mean, the blood was just spewing out.
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing that I never really realized watching on the TV versus being in person, we saw the guy, Alex, the Apex Martin from BFC. We saw him get cut up really bad and have a doctor stoppage. That's a scary look, man. Especially because, I mean, we were right there on the side of the octagon pretty much. That was crazy. And then you see it like on the TV screen, and it might not look as crazy, but based off of what I'd seen the night before, I was like, yeah, that needs to be stopped. Especially because the blood was just pouring straight into her eye, and you can't see, and it's too dangerous of a sport to be losing one eye. Unless you're Shara Bullet or Michael Bisping, you're good.
That's insane to say. But yeah, I mean, I agree, I guess. But I don't like. It's not, to me, it wasn't as much like the blood's definitely a factor. But it wasn't like location as much as like it was so deep. Like, it was so deep you could see the bone in her face. Like, you could see her eyebrow. And of course, you would rather it be above the eyebrow than below the eyebrow. But I mean, it was just too deep.
And it wasn't very much above the eyebrow. I mean, it was like
it was very
dang near even with it.
But it was bone. You could see bone. There's no way that it was going to continue.
Yeah, there was no reason to keep that fight going any longer than what it had to. But again, there's no reason to keep this going any much longer than what we have to without talking about the main event of the evening, Jiří Procházka versus Alex Pereira. The second fight, stare down, was absolutely epic. Jude and I'll talk about that in a second. But one thing I want to say is it was almost identical, other than the left hook. It was almost identical to the first fight, and then very end of round one, Pereira with the insane left hook reminded Jiří that he's got it like that, cracks Jiří at the end of the first round. Jiří's literally on the ground after the horn goes off, like, come on, come grapple. And I was like, it's not a good look for the guy up there, man. I mean, love the guy, one of my favorite fighters. I didn't really expect him to win, to tell you the truth. I just picked him because he's one of my favorites. Both of these guys are two of my favorite fighters, Pereira and Jiří. I would have been upset either way, but incredible fight. They both stepped in on short notice to take this. Pereira defended his belt just like we all expected him to, magic or no magic. Just great fight. And then the head kick was crazy. Literally put his toe back into place after he kicked him. Just incredible fight, man. Can't complain about what we got out of 303 by no means.
No, I don't disagree at all. Like I said, and you saw Jerry when the fight started, he comes out and you never saw his hands that high before in his career. Not that they was super high, but he got him up. It's like Pereira is just in his head. Like, I don't believe that Jerry, they could fight 100 times. I don't know that Jerry would beat him one time, to be honest. And that's my honest take at this point, because it just seems like Jerry's in his head. And I'm a LSU football fan, so I know how that is. Alabama was in LSU's head in football for years until we finally started beating them a couple of times and got him out. But I just don't know that Jerry can ever do it, that he's ever going to recover. It's almost like Costa when he got beat by Israel. It's just like he can't get his swagger back. I mean, I want to see him do good. I don't hate Jerry or anything, but like you could just tell he was nervous going into the fight. He looked tighter than normal, and like Charleston said, it was almost same result as the first fight, other than the left hook. And even at the end of the first round, it would have been almost identical, but it was too late, and so the left hook didn't get him. But great setup. A lot of people's not talking about that. Great setup for the head kick by Pereira. He's got such a good calf kick, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. A calf kick, first off, it doesn't take much on it to hurt somebody. I mean, if you just continue to calf kick and just it starts to hurt, it starts to pile up, and it doesn't take much. But it also it makes you change your eye level, and so now you're preparing for that calf kick, and he had already landed a few times. So Jerry's looking for the calf kick, and he's looking for a counter maybe off the calf kick, and that's when he got caught with the head kick. And it was a great setup by Pereira that a lot of people's not going to talk about. And
right,
the fact that his eyes didn't just go completely out, like he somehow, I don't know how he stays conscious, but he somehow stays conscious every time he gets knocked down. I've never seen Jerry go unconscious.
Yeah, I've never seen Jerry.
It seems like he's out, but he's still up. Like his eyes are.
Yeah,
up.
I mean, like, dude, he gets up and he's like falling over. Herb Dean's like holding on to him, and he's like pretty much trust falling into him. And he's like, they put a stool behind him, and he just refused to sit down. It's like, what are you doing, Jerry? Like, you kind of need a chair at the moment. You just got chinned by Alex Pereira. And one more thing, I mean, the head kick, I mean, the calf kicks like Jude was talking about. I don't know anybody that does it like Alex Pereira. I mean, when they land, man, it's, you could hear it through the TV, a snap.
Yeah.
They're coming in hot, and it don't even look like they're moving that fast, but he's waxing those legs, man. And then, like Jude said, man, I can't disagree with it. Setting up those calf kicks changes the level of those eyes. It's hard to keep expecting that. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, Alex Pereira goes up high with a head kick, which is something you don't see all that often out of Pereira, quite frankly. I mean, you see it out of him, but it's not his most used weapon. Like, that's not what he gets his knockouts with. And one thing I'll also say after this, if you don't have Alex Pereira in your GOAT status, you're crazy. Another thing I will say is I don't think anybody that fights Alex Pereira is the same fighter again, except maybe Izzy. And the only reason that is because Izzy's fought him friggin' 87 times now. So, of course, you got to win at some point. But
so you're saying Pereira is the GOAT, or you're saying...
I'm saying right now he's
like
on the list. He's easily top 5.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
I'm not saying that he is the GOAT. I think there's more things to prove. If he moves up to heavyweight and wins the title at heavyweight, I think it's undeniable, because that's a 3-belt champion at middleweight, light heavy, and heavyweight, and nobody will ever even think about doing.
I don't think it's undeniable, but I think that it definitely puts him in the top 2 for sure between him and John Jones.
Right. Which I think something that has to happen now. We've done our pound for pound list and everything. I think the next episode that you and I sit down on, no guests and stuff. Next time we do that, we got to do our top 10 GOAT list.
Yeah, man, I'll do it. I'm down.
I think that would be an interesting episode. I think that's something that people would enjoy hearing, and I think it would get us some clicks.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have a few guest episodes, though, coming soon.
Yeah, I mean,
that GOAT list will fit in there.
After going to the BFC, I can tell you this much, you guys. We got quite a few fighters lined up out of that. going to have guest episodes pouring out to you guys from a lot of the regional scene MMA people. Also probably going to be, recently been working with a few fighters on the higher end as well, and trying to get some more guest episodes out here, you guys, let you hear what the people want to hear. You got anything else to say though, Jude, before we kind of wrap things up?
Man, all I have to say is check out BFC. It was an awesome event, and Prowler Pickles, obviously, and I'm going to have to get my hands on the Prowler honey because I love honey. I love anything sweet, so, I'm definitely going to have to try it. Prowler Pickles, use code OTO10. Like, subscribe, comment anything that you want to hear. Be on the lookout for some giveaways, and comment anything that you want us to ask any fighters. If there's any fighter in particular you want on, comment that too. We'll try to make it happen. So
absolutely. Jude, you hit the nail on the head with the outro right there. Other than that, all I got to say, thank you so much for tuning in to the Outside the Octagon podcast. If you're subscribed already, I really appreciate you. Help us reach our goals. Keep subscribing. Keep following us on Instagram. As soon as we hit our goals, we got some things we're already ready to give away to you guys. So trust me, we're going to give back. You just got to help us get there. So it's up to you guys at this point. It's all in your hands, whether or not you want to see stuff being given away and have a shot at winning that. But thank you for listening. That's going to be a wrap for this episode of the Outside the Octagon podcast.